What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Central District Hoops Report. I'm your host, Justin Griffiths, and in this episode, we're going to go over all the district teams' games between Thanksgiving and this week as everybody plays on Wednesday night to start district play. And again, just going to glance over what teams did in the holidays because some teams played 3 or 4 games. Other teams only played 1 or 2 games. So it's always give and take when we come to those types of games. But it is going to be a good episode because we finally get a preview what district play is going to be all about. And without further ado, let's just jump into this. The first team being the Shawnee Saints. And like I said, Shawnee is our first team that we're going to look at. They had 2 games over the Thanksgiving holiday. They took on SEMO Prep and won that game handily, 112-61. And then they played Three Rivers just the other night on Monday. And they lost that one 66-64. I mean, there's not much you can really say with both these games. We will look at the Three Rivers game quickly. But both games were really close, and Coach Sparks has this team ready to win now, and not, later on in the district play. This game, Shawnee trailed by 11 at 36-25 at the break. They were able to cut it down a little bit, just not enough as they only lose by 2 points. For the Saints, they were led by Derek Shepard, who was 6 of 10 shooting from the field for 19 points. And then off the bench, it was Jalen White, who was 3 of 10 from the field and had 4 offensive rebounds to go along with 9 points. James DeLoche had 8 points, and Zion Green had 7 for Coach Sparks. Allen King Jr. was another starter that had 8 points off of a 5 of 7 shooting performance and a 1 of 4 shooting performance from the field. Once again, Shawnee having 2 games that were really tough. SEMO Prep, not as much as Three Rivers. That game definitely was your benchmark. You only lose by 2, so heading into your district play where you open up against a team like Swick is going to be very interesting to see how you do. And again, I'll give my thoughts on the games of the week later on in the episode. Then you have the Kaskaskia Blue Devils. And for me, the Blue Devils have always been one of these teams that is give and take. You really don't know. It's a mixed bag of what you're going to be getting. They normally come in with 10 wins into the district schedule, and then they're around 500, maybe a little lower. This year, however, they come in at 8-4 on the year, and that is mainly highlighted by 2 key losses that were surprising to me, both coming against the same team, the Southeastern Illinois College Club team. They lost, again, I talked about this back then, on November 12th, 80-77 at home. They did play them again over the Thanksgiving holiday, and they lost this one 90-81. Then they went ahead and they beat Missouri Baptist. They picked up a conference win against Rend Lake. Or no, they picked up a conference loss against Division II Rend Lake, 92-87. And then they lost to Missouri West Plains on Friday night. Let's see if there's anything on this one. For the Kaskaskia Blue Devils, there's not. And like I said, that's like kind of the big hit and miss on JUCOs when they update these stats and whatnot. Here we go. We got it. Their game against Rend Lake. This was in overtime, so that's interesting. They trailed at the half, were able to tie it up at there, and then just fall short. For the Blue Devils, they were led by Alan Myers, who was 7 of 13 shooting from the field. And Jerron Mackey, who was 6 of 12 from the field for 12 points. Kenyon Garrett Miller was 4 of 12 from the field, also with 12 points. He had 5 assists as well. And off the bench, it was Kendall Van Dyke, who was 3 of 5 shooting from the field, and 4 rebounds that kept the Blue Devils in this game. But again, it's one of those things where you lose to a Division II. Yes, it's your conference opponent, so they see you more than other Division IIs, but it's still one of those head-scratching losses on top of losing to Southeastern, both at home and on the road. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do against Wabash on Wednesday night. Speaking of Wabash, they picked up a big win against Lewis and Clark on December 4th, winning that game 69-58 over the Thanksgiving holiday. I said I saw them possibly winning 2 or 3 games out of that Classic in Three Rivers. They actually lost all 3 of their games. They lost to Northeastern Oklahoma 70-58. Then East Mississippi 84-62 before falling to the host Three Rivers 71-60. Again, just looking at the game against Lewis and Clark, an old district opponent, now Division II, Wabash was led by Nazir Leonard, who was 5 of 11 shooting from the field with 17 points, while Byron McNeil was 5 of 6 shooting for 13 points. And off the bench, it was Mumad Diaby, who was 4 of 6 shooting from the field. And Demario Spear, who was 2 of 4 and had 9 points off the bench. Muhammad had grabbed 4 rebounds as well, so leading them off the bench in the rebounding department as well. Nazir, all 8 of his rebounds came from the defensive end, and Cole Furlow led the team in general on rebounds with 9. And again, it's just going to be an interesting game for both Kaskaskia and Wabash to see who wins the first game. I think whoever wins that one is really going to be the main catalyst to see where, after Vincennes and Logan, and now Shawnee, I'll put them in there, are where that line is between good teams that are going to be top 4 or the rest of the league. And I think Wabash is right on that line, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens Wednesday night. Now we'll see the Olney Central Blue Knights, and they're doing a little bit better than they were last year at this point, 3-7 on the year. They did break that losing streak when they beat State Fair on December 4th before falling to Moberly area on December 6th. And again, they open up their district schedule against Ren Lake. So it's a conference game, not a district game. Then they'll play Lakeland on Saturday. Let's go ahead and look at this Moberly score. It was really a blowout first half for the Greyhounds that gave them the win. For Olney, they were led in scoring by Jordan Badcock, who was 5 of 15 shooting from the field. 4 of 14 from behind the arc, had 3 rebounds and finished with 14 points. Gabe Johnson was 4 of 8 shooting for 12 points for the Blue Knights as well, and Brandon Walters finished with 9 points as a starter. The only bench play that Coach had was RJ Keller, who was 3 of 5 from the field and finished with 8 points. Again, great second half. It was just a poor first half for the Blue Knights in that game. Again, they open up in an actual conference game for them. So it's going to be interesting to see how they take this one. I mean, they picked up a good win against State Fair, winning that one by 3 points. And now it's just being able to continue to build a little bit of momentum for them. And it's going to be interesting to see how Olney responds from last year. You have the John A. Logan Volunteers, which, if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that they would come into district play at 4-5, I would have called you crazy. Told you Coach Smith-Peters is such a good coach that there's no way they fall that way. If you would have told me they would have lost 4 games in the middle of November, I would have even called you crazier. But that's exactly what happened. And now they come into the game against Vincennes, winners of 2 of their last 3. However, they are coming off of a 1-point loss in the Missouri-Illinois Classic that they do every year, 80-79. Before that, they picked up a huge win against Wren Lake, a team that they lost to earlier in the month of November, and they were able to handle it at their home floor, getting a conference win, lost my train of thought there, picking up a conference win against the Warriors of Wren Lake. And this one took overtime to get there. But yeah, John A. Logan was able to pick up a huge win in overtime. They were led by Christian Dorr, who was 13 of 24 shooting from the field. Darkel Payne added 10 for 10 from the charity stripe. Good for 16 points for him. Coach Smith-Peters had Jaden Miles and Cameron McDaniels off the bench, both in double figures. Miles was with 14 points off of a 5 of 8 shooting performance, while McDaniels had 10 points, 3 of 8 from the field for him. And again, just a big game for John A. Logan that they were able to pick up a huge win on. And now they got to take on the number 1 team in the country in Vincennes after losing a tough battle against Moberly area. So it's going to be interesting to see the lactic acid build up between those 2 teams, because Vincennes played Saturday, and so that extra day of rest will be interesting to see if that helps VU or does that help Logan as you're coming off of a relatively quick turnaround. And speaking of Vincennes, let's go ahead and talk about them. They come into this game against Logan at 11-0. With that being said, it is not without some criticism from me. I got to see them when they took on Pellissippi State College, where they won that one 89-60. So they picked up a good win. Then they turn around and struggle against Henry Ford. Both teams struggled against one another between Henry Ford and Vincennes in that game. And then they come around against Elgin and pick up a huge win, 101-66. Looking at the Henry Ford game, it was 25-18 at the break. And then Vincennes pulled away a little bit in the second half, 33-28 for that one. Like I said, it was 58-46. Coming into district play, Vincennes is the lowest shooting free throw percentage team. Coach Franklin and I actually talked about that when I was down there. And so they've actually moved up a little bit from that point. The Pellissippi State game, Dre Vassar looked good. He was 6 of 8 shooting from the field. Alex Montez looked, as advertised. He was 3 of 7. It was really coming off the bench, Jelani Johnson in that game, who was 6 of 6 from behind the arc, that sparked Vincennes when it seemed like they were running into a little bit of trouble against a team that is new to JUCO, and then they picked up, on top of it being the last game before the Thanksgiving holiday. So I see why teams that I were on with Vincennes, we lost games before the Thanksgiving break, I remember. So it was nice to see Vincennes pick up the win. Again, I don't get to see Vincennes much. I don't get to see this district much live, so just being able to pick up a game at all was amazing. I want to thank Coach Franklin and Coach Davis once again. They had me at shoot-around to observe. I loved it, as always. Great facilities. The new scoreboard is amazing. That wasn't there when I was there. The new lights are fun too, but like Dave Hunter said at the beginning of the year, very headache-inducing if you're not used to it. So, a little criticism there. But again, overall, for my first time being able to see a game live since 2019, The atmosphere was good. The new PA announcer is good. Everything's amazing. And I can't wait to go back down there, hopefully sometime soon. And you have the Lakeland Lakers coming in at 3-6. And again, if you would have told me coming into this, they would be at 3-6, I would have called you crazy off of a great run from them last year by Coach Larry. They struggled in the Thanksgiving break area. They played Southeastern in Danville area before the break. Actually, no, the Southeastern game got rescheduled because of the snow that hit Iowa and Illinois. And then they played Jefferson College, where they picked up a huge win, and then they lost to Illinois Central on the 6th. Let's see if that game has any stats. They do, so let's go ahead and look at this game where the Cougars were able to pick up a huge win against the Lakers. Lakeland was led by Peyton Bard, who was 9 of 12 shooting from the field, and Aiden Swinson, who had 17 points, 6 of 15 shooting, and then Locke Offerman, who was 8 of 16 shooting from the field with 17 points. Off the bench for Coach Larry is Keenan Gray, who was 3 of 7 shooting from the field. But that's about it. I mean, decent players. You played 8, and you just trailed by 15 after the break. And then Illinois Central was able to pick up 3 more points in that second half for that 18-point loss. Overall, though, you go into a game Wednesday night against Lincoln Trail, who we'll talk about next. It's always one of those games where you don't know where you stand until you face one another. Lincoln Trail and Lakeland have always been about there for the most part of their time in the district. And I realized that I just probably had the graphic over it. But right even with each other. They jostle most of the time with positioning in the district standing. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. And then you play only on Saturday. So it's going to be very interesting overall to see what they do, what Lakeland is able to do. But yeah, I see it being a very good game between them and Lincoln Trail because it historically is. Unlike Logan and Lakeland, if you would have told me Lincoln Trail coming into district play was at 4-4, I would have completely bought it due to the level of competition they played, and then the way that they were able to pick up some key wins early on in the season, especially against Columbia State on Halloween. For Coach Cotton and his team, they picked up a loss against Indian Hills. That's the last time they played a game. So they are rested, or are they going to be rusted in that game on Wednesday night against Indian Hills, who is a top 25 team. The Statesmen were led by Mike White, who was 4 of 15 shooting from the field for 11 points. And then Jared Jackson, 4 of 6 shooting for 9 points. And off the bench, Asher Evans, 3 of 4, 2 of 3 from behind the arc for 8 points there. And again, just a huge game coming up against Lakeland. So I see whoever's winning this one is going to be obviously having a huge momentum swing heading into district play. It's going to be a very good game. Like I said, historically, these two are always play well against each other. Interesting to see now, since Lincoln Trail's been off since right around that Thanksgiving area, because the games against Southeastern and Minnesota Community Technical were canceled in that Iowa game, or Iowa series. So very interesting to see what happens going forward. and just going to be fun to watch all the way around, see how the Statesmen improve. And finally, you have the Swick Blue Storm coming into conference play at 4-5 on the year. Again, if you would have told me they would have been 4-5, I would have said, yeah, what else is new? Their latest game came against Three Rivers on Sunday, where they lost that one 71-55. I'm wondering if the scores are up there. They are, okay. I know sometimes these games don't get posted until a couple days later, so it's always a crapshoot if you get stats or not when I record these. But anyway, for Swick, Julio Regato led the way, 5 of 7 shooting from the field. Grabbed 6 rebounds, 5 of them on the defensive end, finished with 11 points for Swick in a losing effort against Three Rivers. Elliot Tessagagale was 4 of 8 shooting from the field, finishing with 9 points. Nick Horace, who shot okay, he was 2 of 5 from the field, finished with 7. And John Brigham was 3 of 5, 2 of 3 from behind the arc. He finished with 8 points. Matthew Cooper-Elzy came off the bench for Coach Harrington's team and was 5 of 8 shooting from the field, finishing with 13 points. He was the only one that put in meaningful points off the bench for the Blue Storm. And like I said, they come in Wednesday against Shawnee. Right now, the number 2 team in the district. It's going to be interesting to see who wins that game, because like Lakeland and Lincoln Trail, Swick Shawnee, due to how close they are geographically, is always an interesting matchup and a great game to watch if you're able to catch it. So let's go ahead and jump into this week's slate of games. And like I said, it's going to be a Wednesday, Saturday slate like it has been the last couple of years. So we'll jump into the Wednesday games first, and then we'll touch on Saturday's slate. Let's go ahead and just talk about the only non-district game, and that is the Olney Central Blue Knights against the Lakeland Warriors. And let's talk about the only non-district game, the Olney Central Blue Knights against the Wren Lake Warriors, Wednesday, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And when I talk about times, they're all going to be on Eastern time zones. This is going to be a very interesting game for Olney, just because Wren Lake has been able to beat up on some of these Division I GRAC teams in the past. And I think it's going to be continuing the same here, as it's in the Bannerita Sports Complex in Ina. That is where the district championships are held. So I think it does help all the GRAC teams that they play at least one game at Wren Lake, and it is a hindrance to Vincennes a little bit. But yeah, I just see Wren Lake picking up a win against Olney here. Then let's go ahead and go to Wabash versus Kaskaskia. 7 p.m. Eastern time tip-off for this one. Wabash against Kaskaskia. Kaskaskia we don't know a whole lot about because of their opponents that they played non-district-wise. They played some good opponents in Dyersburg State, but then you've also played Southeastern Illinois club team. It's a mixed bag for the Blue Devils. For Wabash, you're coming off of a difficult Thanksgiving break, but you've played a higher level of competition. I think that helps you a little bit, and I do give Wabash the slight edge in this one. But once again, it's going to be an early contest. I just think that given the level of competition in the non-district portion, got to give the edge to Wabash Valley. For these next 2 games, it really is a coin flip. Between Swick and Shawnee and Lincoln Trail versus Lakeland. Both those games are going to be a coin flip, in my opinion. Let's start with Swick versus Shawnee. I think the Saints have a whole lot more momentum going for them into this ballgame than the Blue Storm do. In the past, this has been a 4-5 matchup, and the winner normally goes to that 4 or 3 seed once we hit Ina. And I see that being the case again this year. For Coach Sparks, I think that you need to keep your pace going. You've had a good non-district schedule that you've been able to put your foot onto the gas and really be able to wear teams out that way. For Swick, you haven't been able to really be that defensive powerhouse that you're known for. Once again, I just wrote down Swick versus Shawnee in this, so I don't know if it's at Swick or if it's at Shawnee. I do think that will make the difference in this ballgame to some extent. I think if this is at Swick, it is very hard to win in Belleville, and the flip side is the same for Shawnee. It's very hard to win in Ulen. So whoever is the home team on this one is going to have the advantage for me. But overall, I just think that Shawnee is a better team as well, and I think that they can overcome Belleville if that is the case. For Swick, I would have to see a huge defense step up in their game. I hope they can. I just don't know if it will happen in Game 1 of this district slate. And let's go ahead and go to our other coin flip game, the Lakeland Lakers against Lincoln Trail. And if you would have told me that going into this matchup, Lakeland would have been at 3-6, I would have called you crazy. This is at Lincoln Trail, so I do think that gives the Statesmen a little bit of an advantage. Overall, again, it's one of those games where it can go back and forth. For Coach Larry's team, pace is going to be your friend. For Coach Cotton's team, it's going to be about your defensive pressure. Can you have that like you had against Columbia State in Halloween? Or are you going to slide a little bit? If you do, Lincoln or Lakeland is going to be able to push that tempo like they did against Triton. Yes, they lost that game 96-88, but it was a up and down affair. So if you're able to defensively slow them down, advantage to Lincoln Trail. If not, I do see Lakeland winning this one pretty big. And then we have Vincennes and Logan. This one is probably still the game of the week in district play. VU versus Logan is always a good matchup between the two teams. In the past, it has been close. And normally, these two teams have been your district representative for the last decade and a half. So whoever wins this one is obviously going to have major advantage going forward. And it all comes down to which team is bought in more. For Coach Smith-Peters, obviously not the start to the season that you wanted to, but you've played some very tough competition. Copy and paste for Coach Franklin. Yes, you're 11-0, but at the same time, there are times that your team has not looked the greatest against your opponent. You are the least team percentage-wise in shooting free throws. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see how that transpires going into district play. You know, this one, as much as I want to say Vincennes is going to run away with it because Logan is, around 500, it's not going to be that simple. It's all about which team is going to show up that game. Yes, Vincennes is number 1, but Logan, over the history, has shown that rankings don't matter and they can get back into the top 25 if they have a good stretch, and that could start against Vincennes. That being said, I think Coach Franklin has already explained this in detail to the guys, and the sophomores that are still there from last year, yes, it's only been 2 of them, they're going to recognize that really the road to Hutch starts right here against Logan. So that's going to be an interesting game. I think I have Vincennes, in my mind, win this one by about 5 to 10 points. Now let's go ahead and move on to the Saturday slate games, Kaskaskia versus Swick. I think if Swick loses to Shawnee, they can definitely pick up the pieces in that quick turnaround and beat Kaskaskia. Again, it's the type of opponents that Kaskaskia has played that has left this team in such a question mark state. They're 8-4, but they don't look it like an 8-4 team. They haven't played like it from time to time. So that being said, Swick is one of those teams that has been up and down all non-conference as well. It's going to be very interesting to see between these two teams how the coaching staff can relate to the players and get them right to where they need to be. I think Swick just has that historical advantage with Coach Harrington being that Hall of Fame coach, and I will give the Blue Storm the advantage on this one. Then we got Logan versus Wabash Valley. This one is going to be a tough one, and it's going to be up there for like the game of the week in the district as well. Logan, like I said, if Wednesday night's predictions come true, Logan's coming off of a tough loss to Vincennes after a tough loss against Moberly. So look for them to be ready to play against Wabash. For the Warriors, they would be coming off of a win against Kaskaskia. So it can go either way. Again, home court advantage is huge here. Let me just check real fast. See, if Logan has the advantage, obviously I think Logan's going to win because now you've played 2 of your district games on your home floor. If Wabash has the advantage, obviously they're going to be able to pack that gym. It's smaller than Logan's a little bit, so I'll give the advantage to Wabash in that case. But this game is going to all come down to who's the host team, because Logan last year had problems against Wabash Valley in Wabash Valley, but they were able to handle the Warriors on Logan's home floor. So it's all about that. It is at Wabash Valley. For that reason and that reason alone, I'll give the Warriors a slight advantage between 2 points, and I think this one repeats as last year's game did, and this one actually goes into overtime. Then we have Olney Central against Lakeland. As much as I want to say Olney picks up a win here, I just don't see it. I think Coach Larry's team is really well coached. Yes, Olney is still trying to build a foundation for themselves. I just don't see how they do it here against Lakeland. Now, this could be a trap game for the Lakers. With that being said, Lakeland, I have the advantage in their speed category, in their offensive output category, and their level of competition that they play non-district-wise. It all leans to the Lakers. So, for that reason, I got to give the edge to Coach Larry's team. Olney Central, you're going to be building something new and starting from scratch with your new head coach. And that takes time, and especially now that you have a district game under your belt, it'll be interesting to see going forward how you build upon that. But for your opening game to be against Lakeland, I just see the Lakers picking up the huge win here. Then you have Vincennes against Lincoln Trail at the VU complex. Again, if my prediction is right and Vincennes pulls out that huge win, Lincoln Trail is a trap type game, even though in the previous couple of years Lincoln Trail has played a heck of a lot better matchup wise against them. It's, again, if Coach Franklin can get that drilled into his team's head about not overlooking an opponent, I think they got the huge advantage here, being on their home floor, where they've had 10 games to play on their home court, and they've won all 10 of them, and coming back from a true road test against Logan. I see Vincennes winning this one by 10 to 15 points. I see Lincoln Trail putting up a battle in the first half, maybe even having the lead going into the break. But overall, I think that Coach Franklin's chess game is going to be a little bit better. And in the second half, they're going to be able to pull ahead and win the game. And then you have your non-district game, Shawnee versus Rend Lake. And as much as I want to say Shawnee runs away with this game, they've had times where they have not been that type of team that can just put a team away that is like a Division II opponent. They've struggled a little bit here as of late. And to counterpoint it, Rend Lake has been able to beat these Division I teams in the GRAC and to put them in their place. I mean, they just beat Logan earlier in the month of November. So the potential is there for an upset. And I'll say Shawnee picks up a win. I think it's going to be close because I think Rend Lake is playing really good basketball right now. Shawnee is playing good basketball too. Again, it just depends. Do these kids overlook the opponent? And if they do, that favors Rend Lake because they've been overlooked against some of these D1 opponents in the GRAC before, and they've shocked them. If they don't, if they stick to their game plan that I know Coach Sparks is going to implement, I can see Shawnee picking up a huge win here. And that's going to do it for this week's episode. Next week, I will have all 10 of these games to recap. That's going to be a fun time for me. Of course, once we hit district play, it is my favorite time to do these types of videos, to do this podcast. It's been a blast once we hit district play, just because I know it's Wednesday, Saturday every single week, so I can plan a little bit better around it. I'm not having to wait on stats because if I get them, when I normally record these on Monday night, the stats are normally up by then off of a Saturday game, so it's going to be a lot of more easier for me to grab those stats and to be able to break it down better than it has been this year, with games being played back-to-back days or games being played as I'm recording. It's going to be tough. That was tough for me to do. That's why I don't do a lot of these pre-conference, pre-district videos, is because it's just hard for me to align all 9 of these schedules up and be able to pick a day to record where I have a lot of information. I have that now. We're hitting district play. The road to Hutch starts in earnest here on Wednesday night. It's going to be a fun slate of games between all these teams, and it really does start Wednesday. Again, I think the game of the week is Vincennes versus Logan in Logan. Close second would be on Saturday, Wabash versus Logan at Wabash. That's going to do it for this episode. I will see you all next week. Until then, peace.